Hi, in this video I am doing a quick workout for your hip flexors. It should really fire up those hip flexors. So your hip flexors are deep in the groin here. So give these exercises a go and see if your hip flexors fire themselves up. You will need a yoga block or something similar. It's to put in between our feet like that to keep them hip width distance apart, and also to put through our in between our knee, and that is going to be for the knee pillow squeezes. And a yoga belt, something similar, dressing gown cord, just a normal belt, as long as it's got no give in it whatsoever. First of all, we are going to start in the hook lying position. Okay, get yourself nicely set up. Feet hip width distance apart, arms out to the side, palms up, and try if you can to keep your palms really nice and wide, so your hands nice and starfish and active on the floor. Okay, and for the sake of the camera, you viewers as well, I'm going to start on this leg. So make sure that you have your feet really nice and parallel, and I've said before, hip width distance apart, and the outside edge of your foot nicely lined up, so it's in a straight line. Go from the outside line, not the inside. Okay, make sure you're nice and even, palms up, and you are going to raise your foot up like that, your right foot, so you're pivoting at the toes. So a bit like you've got a stiletto on, but it's an invisible stiletto. And now you're going to keep this static like that. You may even be getting cramp already before we started the exercise. And you need to have a slight tilt in your pelvis. So a forward tilt, anterior tilt. So it's a little tiny bit of room at the back there. And that goes for the next exercise as well. Okay, and we are going to lift our left leg up like that. Okay, so we're not kicking out like that, we're lifting the knee up. Nice and slowly. All the time keeping your static leg up like you've got a pretend stiletto on. Okay, and you do 40 reps on that side. And then we swap over. So I'm going to swap over for you. So raising our left leg up, pivoting at the toes like we've got a pretend or invisible heel on. Palms up, hands, and gently, and we're not tapping, we're not going like that. It's all coming from your hip flexor, the move there. Now I'm getting cramp already in my left calf, and my hip flexor is really nicely kicked in, it's woken up. Your hip flexor is deep there, deep right in your groin. Okay, so you do 40 on each leg. You don't touch, don't tap like that. Just come really, just hover by the ground. Don't go down. Oh, that's really good. Okay, so that is your hook lying hip flex, isolated hip flexor, isolated hook lying, isolated hip flexor lifts. And now we are going to do the hook line knee pillow squeezes. So same position, you just place whatever you're going to use in between your knees. Exactly the same as the last exercise, the position. So get nice and comfy with your pillow. That's perfect for me. Palms facing up. Upper body really nicely relaxed. Look up to the ceiling. And now we're squeezing, holding and releasing whatever is between our knees. So you just want to make sure that whatever you're squeezing against, gives a hip width distance apart. So your feet and your knees should be hip width distance apart, all in a nice line. So you're not killing the block. Maybe doing a 5 out of 10 squeeze. You might find that if you squeeze too hard, you tense up all in your lower back and you get more of a tilt. Just remember in this exercise, like I said at the beginning in the first exercise, you need to have a little bit of an anterior forward tilt in your pelvis. Okay, everything's relaxed in your upper torso. Squeezing, holding, releasing. Squeezing, holding, releasing. Squeezing, holding, releasing. Okay, you should be feeling this all in the inside of your legs. Sometimes your hip flexors can kick in, mine are, even though I can't really feel them as much as the last exercise. I know they're working because I'm feeling them here. For me, it's more on the inside of my thighs. Remembering just to keep really nice and relaxed, tummy nice and relaxed. Also, a good thing to check in when you're doing this, I've mentioned about your back raising up and maybe your rib cage might flare up if you're doing a bit too hard. Just keep your jaw nice and relaxed, and also your feet. Your feet might want to do something funny when you're squeezing your knees. Okay, so they might want to claw, or you might feel that you want to go up on your tiptoes, or you might feel that you're rolling in or you're rolling out with your feet. So you want to keep your feet nice and level and flat on the floor. Your weight should be distributed nicely all in your feet and basically all throughout your body as well. Okay, so you need to do 40 reps twice there in the hook-lying knee pillow squeezes, and then we're going to do hip crossover stretch. So, funnily enough, we begin in exactly the same position, which is hook lying. Make sure you're nicely lined up. You're going to place your left ankle over your right knee, and you might find that when you do that, you might rotate your hips like that. So, a good trick or tip is to hold on to your hips nice and firmly and start again. So pop your left ankle over your right knee, making sure that you don't move your hips or your pelvis to get into position. Put your arms out to your side, palms facing up. Try and have your hands as flat as possible. Keeping your foot of your left foot, so your left foot really nice and active. Pivot, so pull back from the ankle, the whole foot should follow back towards your left shin, and push out with that knee, and we are going to come down to the right side and then look left hand side, and now making sure that your big toe on your left foot is grounded on the ground. Do not let that leave the ground. And now all the time, actively pushing out with our knee. So our hands don't touch anything. You are actively pushing through your hip, through your big toe, and opening that hip up. So you're pushing that knee away. The knee is basically you're pushing. All the time, remembering to breathe. Nice and relaxed everywhere else, just ensuring that you keep that big toe grounded and you're pushing actively against the knee with the knee. So you're really opening everything up. Okay, and then repeat on the other side for a minute. So you do a minute both sides. And then we are going to do double, no lift. So you are going to need your yoga strap or whatever you're using. It doesn't have to be a yoga strap. It can be a belt or a dressing gown cord, as long as it doesn't give you any elastic. So So you don't want elasticate. You don't want it to be really giving. I don't even think that's a word. I think I just made it up. You just want it to be so you have your knees out like that and you're pulling against it and it's not giving anything. And you're going to put the yoga block or whatever you're using between your feet. Now it's a really good idea to set yourself up properly before you lie down here. So you're going to have your yoga block really nicely centered, all of your feet parallel, so not one up or one down, because we're going to be pressing against this. So we're going to be squeezing against it, squeezing our feet in. So we need to ensure that we're really nicely lined up, because even though you might not be able to because of bunions or funky feet shape, you just really need to try and actively have your feet squeezing against whatever they're squeezing against. You need it to be a nice even feel. Okay, so back into the hook line position. Set yourself up, making sure that you've got your knees hip width distance apart. Now I'm sat in position and I think I could have it a little bit looser, so I'm just going to loosen it off. There you go, that's perfect. Okay, so we are popping our hands out to the side like that, palms up, nice and active hands, starfish. Now we're going to lead from our ankles, so we're going to squeeze in against the block and then we're squeezing out on the yoga strap, and that's 1 rep. So squeeze in on the block, out against the belt. So ankles in, knees out. Nice fluid reps. Looking up at the ceiling. Don't kill the block. You're doing about a 5 squeeze on each of your ankles, your feet and your knees. And you should feel this working all in your lower legs. So there I'm feeling it squeezing against the block. I'm feeling it all up here, feeding into my glutes. And then when I'm pulling out against the strap, I'm feeling it in the same areas, but different. Oh, that's a really good stretch. Really good. So remembering just with your feet, try and do it the same on each foot, and don't lead with your big toes, and don't lead with your heels. You need to be centered on the block in between your feet, and the same when you're pulling out against the strap. Each side needs to be even. Okay. Oh goodness me, I'm feeling that all in my glutes area. Oh, now my hip flexors are kicked in as well. So the squeeze in should be your glutes, and the squeeze out should be your hip flexors and your glutes. But depending on what's happening in your body, you might feel it in different areas. Okay, and then, so you do 40 reps of those, and now we are going to do air bench for the last minute. So you need to come to a wall, have your ankles out from your knees. So your ankles don't need to be directly underneath your knees, and you need to be up a little bit, so you don't want to be sat right down. There you go, it's perfect. Pigeon-toed, and now we are going to have our arms right down by our sides or like this, whatever's comfortable. Just keep them still, because you'll find that when you get into the exercise, you want to do everything to stop yourself doing this exercise. But we are going to push into our heels and really push back our pelvis and lower back into the wall. And sorry, and now all my dogs are all going to start barking, and all the dogs in the road. Bear with me. Right, so you're really pushing through your heels into the back, into your back, pelvis, really push back. Don't scrunch your toes up, they need to be nice and flat. So your feet are really nice and flat, no scrunching toes, really push through your heels, pelvis, lower back. Try and do this for 1 minute. 2, if you can. You should feel that all working, insides, outsides, even your glutes might join in for that one. That's air bench for a minute. And now you've got a chorus of dogs as well for the end.